Hi, folks. You are watching and listening to another gloomy edition of Sipping Off the Cuff here in Southern California. I'm Mike Morales, again in gloomy Southern California. It looks like rain. That gentleman sitting over there is.
Jim Johnston in Youngstown, Ohio.
And Jim, is it gloomy on your end of neck of the woods there?
It is, yes. It's March. It's cloudy.
It's March. It's cloudy, but it's your month. You like your
That's right.
You're
That's
our
right.
you're our Irish correspondent. People don't know this. You can see this video on YouTube. He was responsible for actually teaching Ireland about how to make a proper margarita, and he's got that video on our
That's
YouTube
right.
channel.
That's
And
right.
every time it plays, we were getting hits from Ireland, and we knew it was your cousins and your family probably, but
I have family, and actually, when we get into the bottle we're going to taste, I can give you guys a little bit more background about the where and how of this particular bottle of tequila.
well,
So
this is the one we've been hoarding since last August, and right now it's the beginning, first day of March. We're hoarding this. It's called Irlandes, and that's Spanish for those of you who are Hispanically impaired. Irlandes is Spanish for Ireland. Yeah, and there's a big reason why this is named Irlandes. It is the backstory. Let me tell you, the gentleman's name is Colm O'Phelan. Am I pronouncing that correctly? O'Phelan.
yes, yes.
Colm, you have to meet this guy, and hopefully, we're hoping to get him on Open Bar. But this gentleman is so passionate about this brand, and he knew everything about the background of the story. I'm not going to give too much of that away, but there's a reason why that everything that he did on this label, everything he did on the neck tag, has something to do with the legendary and mythological almost San Patricios. And the San Patricios were a group of Irish expatriates who jumped ship during the Civil War. Is that correct?
Mexican American War. Actually, they went across
Mexican
the Rio Grande and
and fought for
fought
the Mexicans.
fought for Mexico, basically so they could go to Catholic mass
Yeah,
because that was a no-no in the U.S. for no Irish need apply. It was kind of the story everywhere. So
yeah. So anyway, that's what this juice is based on. And you can see I've had some severe spillage, but Jim has got a full bottle. He
uh,
just
the
he just broke the
discipline it
seal.
took me, the discipline it took me not to pop the top on this is incredible. But I did. I saved it.
Well,
So here it is, completely for me, sipping off the cuff. And I do want to point out, this actually month is my 8th anniversary of being a taster for Tequila Aficionado.
yes.
And I don't want this to be a sign of any bias that I'm going to give this tequila a great review simply because it's Irish. I've been wearing this stuff since the first day I started doing
That's true.
tastings. It's in every video. You can go back to 2017. You will see me in my Ireland soccer and rugby gear, my Guinness stuff. It does look like I am very biased towards anything Irish, and I am, but I will be 100% objective about what is in this bottle, despite the fact that it's got the tricolor right on the neck.
Oh my God. You folks don't even know the half of his backstory, but we're not going to get into that right
Yeah,
now.
no, we're yeah.
This
So
this backstory goes as far back as his parents. Okay, so
absolutely,
and even further. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, Jim is also a musician. So during March he's always busy because once St. Patrick's rolls around, he is booked. Him and his band, and these guys are. You can follow Jim on his Instagram, and he'll point that out to you later on. But you can follow the band and the music, and he plays throughout all over Youngstown and surrounding parts that at that point. So.
that's right.
That being said, this is a Blanco tequila. I'm going to pour mine in my Stasso Jarrito. Uh, and then we'll get into the stats and stories. But, as far as anything else, well, oh, okay. Oh, boy. As far as anything that counts, it's always about the juice. Okay. So,
I will be using a Glencairn from the Dingle Distillery, which is in County Kerry, Ireland, and you'll know why I'm doing that in a couple minutes.
so there we go. I'm going to pour this in my Jarrito for tequila. Um, I was very fortunate to meet Colin in August of last year, 2024, during Saboricultura, or well, the industry show before the next day. And he was a guy that came on at the last minute. And I got to tell you, that story that he tells about this tequila and his passion and his background was kept us spellbound. I mean, he took me aside and he did 20 minutes on the background and the story, and it was amazing. And then
Well,
he tasted us on the juice, and well, this is our
the
first sipping off the cuff on the juice. So,
the Irish are pretty much known for being great storytellers. So
oh yeah,
um,
he's got that gift, man.
I also heard it as well, you know, and it's a the history of why he came up with this and the story about how he had this tequila made is phenomenal. And he tells it with this wonderful Irish brogue. And it sounds great. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm on the phone with this guy. He's talking to me about his story, the story of this tequila. And it sounds phenomenal. It sounds like Liam Neeson is narrating somebody's tequila journey. And then you think, I really hope this stuff is good because the story is phenomenal.
Okay, well, as you know, I've had these bottles open since like August. I haven't touched them in like months. And as soon as I popped that cork, that baked agave aroma
Oh,
just went up. And you tell me, I want to hear from you because I already know what I'm tasting. I didn't dissect it, but and as you saw,
well, you had it the day you met him. I mean, you tasted it
yeah,
there kind
yeah,
of
that was before
just,
we even had bottles. I mean, I had these bottles delivered to me from his by his partner. His business partner is in LA. Colin lives in Texas, but he lived in LA for a long time, and I've got some stories that you want to hear about him too. This guy's a piece of work, I gotta tell you. But beautiful
it's
lime zest. Oh my gosh, it just sings.
yeah, it's got really nice floral and citrus with the baked agave. And the thing that I caught with, I opened the bottle and it was immediate. It flowed out of the bottle. Sometimes we
Yes.
don't smell a damn thing until we put it in the glass and put it to our nose. I opened the bottle and I smelled it. It smells. It is just a very bright floral, citrusy baked agave, and it is overall just a pleasant aroma.
Now it's got beautiful legs and tiers. It's got some great body and structure. So it's, as I like to say, it's streaming like Netflix. It's nice.
Wow.
And it's pristine. I mean, it's
Yeah.
beautiful to look at. It's almost mercurial.
Clarity is very nice.
And, you know, on a gloomy day like today, my lighting is really doing a great job on this glass. I'm not sure you folks can see that on your screen.
Probably not, but yeah, it you get a little bit of alcohol towards the end here as it starts to open up, but it is it is a sweet floral citrus baked agave. I don't want to call it's simple. There's three standout aromas in this that really just are constantly there. You might
Yes.
get some more things as you go down, but those are always there. It's what I smell the most.
Well, you want to dive in? Because wait till you taste this sucker.
Oh, okay. All right.
This is day drinking for me, folks. He's Jim is 3 hours ahead of me, so it's like, okay, here we go, man. I'm sorry, this bit bucket is your friend.
I'm
Oh,
not spitting this out.
oh,
Oh,
I don't like making a first determination on the first pass. I haven't had even coffee yet. So it's my palate's blank slate. But what are you getting? That's what I'm more interested in to hear what your descriptors are and what.
the agave is big right up front. It's got some minerality to it. It's got a little bit of pepper, and the pepper isn't in the back. It's the whole way through.
Yeah.
But it's just a very clean, baked agave flavor, and it's got some brightness to it because that minerality is right up on the front of the palate. It's
What I noticed, and by the time I got to meet Colin, the event was like a couple hours in, and he was a late addition to the whole industry night that night. So I'd already had a couple of, you know, tequilas to begin with before I had his, and his woke me up because the thing that
oh
I found, the element that I found that was very pronounced for me that night was the minerality. And
yes, and
I love a tequila with minerality, but apparently there's another reason for why there's minerality. And let me, before we even tell you why this makes more sense, is
oh
this tequila is it's only an 80 proof, okay, but it's actually much more punchy.
it's bolder than what that proof
Yes,
is saying,
it's
because
punchier.
all of that stuff that's up front with the pepper and the minerality give it a little bit of a brightness that you would think comes from alcohol. It's not.
Okay, so this is coming from Nom 1588, one of
El
my favorite,
Mexicano.
El Mexicano, which, by the way, you and I have to do that tasting also because you have bottles of El Mexicano.
True.
El Mexicano, the distillery, and the tequila are I believe it's the son or the grandson of the Don Felix who started Cazadores. So it's made at the same distillery where El Mexicano is made, and El Mexicano is like old school Cazadores.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I said, how did you even wind up at that distillery? And it was the same story. You know, he visited several and liked what he tasted from El Mexicano. And it's a small distillery. There's not a whole lot of other brands coming out of there. But
Right.
I'm not even going to get into Mexicano. Just the fact that if you folks are getting it, you should get back up the truck. It's one of the best values you can ever get. But anyway, so when I saw that, it's like, oh, it's coming from El Mexicano, which is Arandas, and Arandas has a very unique flavor profile that to me is a combination of Highlands and a Matitan, which has more minerality in it. But this one jumped out at me because it had more minerality than I was used to coming out of anything out of Arandas. So
That's because
you tell them.
the water doesn't come from Arandas.
Well,
It comes from Ireland.
not all the water comes from
Not
Ireland.
all the water, but some of the water.
Some of the water. Tell them what you got to
So,
tell them
well,
the story because I'm
yeah,
just going to mess it
he
up.
tracked down the land where one of the leaders of the San Patricios band of Irish soldiers in Mexico, basically the family land, and it's a well in County Kerry, which is on the west coast of Ireland. Dingle is a tiny little town in County Kerry where I have family that live there. It's one of the most beautiful places I have ever been in my entire life. But the thing about this whiskey in Ireland is all about water. It's about the land and the rocks and the everything that it flows through before it gets to where the whiskey is. And it matters a ton because agave is going to have flavor profiles based on the ground it's grown in. When you get to malted barley and the things that make whiskey what it is, water has a huge impact on that. Whereas the agave and the water together for tequila kind of make everything come together. If your water sucks, your Irish whiskey is going to suck. So this comes from a well on land in County Kerry, Ireland, and not all the water, but some of the water that is in this tequila is from Ireland, and it is from a well in an area where that is the west coast of Ireland. It is very very rocky. It is the minerality on this comes from ancient rocks that all of this water has filtered down from mountains into an area that is just collecting this mineral rich clean water, and that's what goes into this. and I don't know the exact location. I was watching the video on Irlandes Tequila website when it pans across the Irish coastline. And it's like, I know I've been there. I know exactly where that is. I don't know where it is specifically, but I asked him about, well, where in Kerry is this well? And, well, he said, I'm not going to tell you, and that's fine. I get that. You're going to protect that, but the minerality out of this water and the cleanliness of this water, because one of the things about the Irish terrain and the way that there's a very peaty, organic, bog like layer of soil, and everything that comes down through that is filtered almost like it comes through coal filtration or charcoal filtration. Um, and then it gets all that minerality coming through that rocky terrain, and then when it settles down, that's rainwater that comes off of so much of the Atlantic Ocean that you're not picking up a ton of ground pollution, any of that crap. It falls on the west coast of Ireland. It comes down through the. I'm getting emotional about water. It comes down through the mountains and all of that organic kind of soil and rocky terrain, and it is phenomenal stuff. That's why this distillery makes such great whiskey. They start with water, but he's getting water from the exact same geography, and they're feeding this into good Highland Mexican water and agave, and this is phenomenal.
I asked him.
This is phenomenal.
The funny thing was, for another brand, I'm not even going to go. I'm not going to mention that particular brand. Um, they, I probably should mention the brand just because just because the name of the brand is why I asked this question to this particular brand. Um, one of the owners of this particular brand has bought the house that Merv Griffin lived in, and there is an underwater aquifer that feeds that property. And the name of the tequila is called Rodeo de las Aguas, which was what Beverly Hills is now. Okay, so the Beverly Hills was,
Rodeo Drive.
yeah. So it was built on that same property, which was a land grant. It was a ranch. So I
Right.
asked the brand owner, I said, "Are you using their water?" He says, "No, it's Mexico. We have to use their water." So I asked Colum, I said, "For this case, how are you getting?" Because I knew that there were certain rules, obviously normas that say you can't, you have to use everything that it's got to come out of Mexico or not.
Right.
And I don't know how Colum did it. I don't know. What I asked him was, how are they using all your water? And he says, no, I am exporting 20 liters like monthly for like
Right.
every batch gets, so they spread that 20 liters of well water shipped from that well to Mexico. And I guess as long as Mexico is using the blending, the water,
Right.
and I guess they have to test it or filter it or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what the particulars are. We'll have to ask him.
Well, obviously, if you export something, you know what it's going to be used in, and but that doesn't sound like a lot of water.
20 liters doesn't sound like a lot, but to add this much character to the finished product,
That
they
is a testament to that water and the mineral content and what kind of process it goes through to actually get to that well, and what kind of character of just water comes out of that part of the world. It is a very so it's not volcanic. It's not volcanic soil or anything like that, but the ancient rock and the organic compounds that are in that soil, this stuff is bright, it is clean, it is
mm,
bold, and it doesn't do anything to cover up the agave. It
no, that's
lifts
just
the
it.
agave up.
It's
The water is giving it all that lift out of the.
and I noticed too,
Oh,
this is actually my first swallow because I spit both of my passes through on my spit bucket there. This is my first swallow, and I haven't had it in months, not since maybe August. Anyway, Nice, long, warm, fuzzy finish.
Yes. Oh yeah.
You know, it really gives it a boldness that it really belies the 40 ABV. It almost feels like it's a 42. It could be 42, 45. If this thing were any higher, oh my God,
Well, you'd have to be careful because it's got some punch at the front because of the minerality and a little bit of that
yes.
pepper. But mid palate, I got all that floral sweetness on the nose, just a little like citrus sweetness that came through at the end, and it kind of tempers that minerality, and it's soft towards the back, but you still have that nice long warm finish. So it's big and punchy up front, softens out a little with some sweetness to it, but you got that nice long finish, and it's
What I also had too just now as I was doing a little bit of retro nasal, I get a lot of mint. There was a lot of
yes, yeah,
herbaceousness, mintiness that was coming up. That
yeah.
because now it's been sitting here opened up, right? I mean, it's been
Mm-hmm.
agitated opening up. We've talked about it poetically, uh, maybe at length, but it really deserves to be dissected like this because it is so unlike any tequila. If you go to his Instagram, he's been to Ireland. He goes to the pubs and he
He's
taste
from
tests.
Ireland.
Well, yeah, I
He's
know, but he
from
goes
Ireland.
right, but he goes to these pubs and he's taste testing, you know, the patrons, and when he tells them where the water's coming from, these people are crossing themselves before they. It's like it's holy
It's a
water.
sacred well. Yeah, it's we.
Now,
It's
now,
a
now
it's a
tell
holy
me,
site.
now this is a sacred well, but isn't this a well that was blessed by Saint Patrick? Is that what I'm thinking?
Every well in Ireland was blessed by St. Patrick. I mean, it's kind of a, you know, did that man make it around the entire island? Probably not, but it's so old that you could tell a story about it. And to find somebody who actually witnessed it, you'd have to go back 1,000 years because that's how old everything is there. That's how old the same culture has lived in the same place. But that's why I'm trying to find out where this damn well is so that I can send my cousins who live over there and in search of it to maybe find him dunking the 20-liter jug in there one day.
in
I don't
search of
know
in search of well water. That sounds like a
exactly.
national. It's a National Geographic episode here at Tequila.
Well, but you know what? You think about this. Think about 20 liters doesn't sound a lot, but when you add in the kind of minerality that comes from that far away, from a completely different terrain with volcanic soil
Exactly.
and clay and the soil that exists in the highlands.
And the agave and the hand of the maker, you add those
Then
two
you add in
together.
this agave, which I'm gonna say is absolutely mature, really well made, because I can taste it in this. This is very clean, very
Yes.
bright agave. It is a very nice expression of agave in this. But you add in that bit of minerality that has nothing to do with the volcanic soil or the water that comes down from the highlands, and it changes this.
And I'm wondering, again, I hope to have Colin on an open bar here shortly, but I'm wondering if why what was the impetus? What was the what compelled him to use well water from Ireland for his tequila, other than the passion that he has for the story? Because this
Well,
guy,
other than being Irish, and I believe, according to the conversation I had with him, if I recall correctly, the well is on land that one of the members of that brigade, that's family land of theirs. He went back and traced some of the people that fought in that regiment back to Ireland, found family land with a well, and decided to utilize that well.
well, now he's got some really fact. If you look at his website, and this is his POS that he said that his partner actually gave to us, it says it's the only tequila in the world to hand source sacred water from St. Patrick's Well. Okay, an ancient spring in on I can't even pronounce this man on Chnachpog, Ireland. AN space capital CHNAPO. I think it's an umlaut G, Ireland, and that's got to be Gaelic, and I don't speak Gaelic.
Oh, it absolutely is Gaelic, and believe me, You could screw up Gaelic, whatever you think that Haoig sound is, it's not what you think it is. And
No,
I'm not
it's
even going to try to do it because I have ancestors that will haunt me if I try it. Family members exist now that will be pissed if I try it. I will get a Gaelic pronunciation for that before we do the repo, and I'll try to figure out
okay. All
how to
right.
actually pronounce that.
So it
But
says this is inspired by the legendary Irish battalion that helped save the Mexican army at the Battle of Churubusco, August 20th, 1847. If I'm not mistaken, if you go back to Column's Instagram, Irlandes's Instagram, he was actually in that on that date. He was at the well. I think there's a video of him at the well on that particular date. And I think next year, I think he mentioned that next year he wanted to, this year, 2025, he wanted to be at that location in Mexico at the battle site to commemorate that event. And it's a heartbreaking story. I didn't even know all of the story. You know,
yeah,
when the
it
first
is.
person, there's one guy, I got to tell the story. I know we're going over, but you know what? This is storytelling time, folks. It's not about just the tequila, it's about the background. Okay.
That's right.
So there's a gentleman on LinkedIn.
I'm going to sip this while you tell the
Go
story.
go right ahead. There was a gentleman on LinkedIn, and he reached out to me, and I didn't know him then, and LinkedIn was fairly new at the time, and it wasn't even owned by Meta yet, or Facebook, or whatever the hell they're calling themselves now. And so he reached out to me, and he had, I think his whole thing was about Patrick. And he knew a little bit about the San Patricios, and that was the first time I'd ever heard that story. And I said, LinkedIn was so new. I said, sure, the guy was pretty well connected when he was connecting connections. He really liked
Right.
about he really used that format for what it really is, doing business connections. And that's where I first heard the story of the San Patricios, but I wasn't very well versed on it and I was living in Texas at the time. And these guys were from Texas that crossed the Rio Grande like,
Correct.
like, like what
Correct.
they're doing now, right? That talk about illegal aliens, and they were embraced. Mexico has embraced all cultures for the longest time. From Buffalo soldiers to slaves. In fact, Mexico abolished slavery. Okay, let me just say that they were the first ones to abolish slavery in the Americas. All right. Okay. So, and these guys were looked down upon. I mean, the Irish were.
Oh,
Was that what was the movie, the Tom Cruise movie, Long and Away, Far and Away?
far and away.
That
Yeah.
was about. That was
There
about.
was a very anti-Irish and anti-Catholic bias. And the 1847 is important because 1845 is the potato famine. That is when the people of Ireland and this is where we kind of get a reputation as being potato eaters. It wasn't just because all we ate was potatoes and the famine made it impossible to get food. It meant that because we had no potatoes because of that basically infection of the plant and that famine, we were sending all of our food to the British. We were exporting everything that was safe for our consumption and good for us to the British. And when you lose the last staple crop you have that nobody else wanted, that basically was the thing you had to sustain yourself off of, they started coming to the United States. And there's a great Tullamore Dew commercial. It's called Blend, and it's about no Irish need apply. And it's about we're all from somewhere else. No matter where we are, we all come from somewhere else, from mixed friendships and mixed heritages and things like that. So 1847, these guys are over there. They join the United States Army, but they're Catholic and they're not allowed to go to mass because there's a very anti-Catholic, anti-Irish bias. And who are the closest Catholics around? The Mexicans. So they went across basically so they can go to church and ended up fighting for Mexico and defending the place that gave them their religious freedom.
So to wrap this up, I've got to read this, and then when we have him on open bar, he'll be able to tell you the story. I'm reading the notes because I don't want to get anything wrong because these are the same notes that they gave to us. By the way, for those of you wanting to know what the process was on the tequila, it's very simple. Um, Made with hand-sourced Blue Weber agave from the renowned Los Altos region in Mexico, direct from the farmer, which is the guy who owns a distillery, who is a relative, a direct descendant of the Cazadores family in that area. That family is very powerful, by the way. The sons of Don Felix, they sit there every morning and they determine the price of agave in that area. They have a restaurant that sits beside the original Cazadores distillery, and they sit there and make up price points. Anyway, slow baked to enhance a full flavor profile, fermented and distilled using wild natural yeast in local fermentation tanks. Okay, nothing else, nothing else is added. Now, let me read this. I've got to read this to you before we sign off because this is interesting. We make the first tequila inspired by Ireland. There was a legendary Irish battalion of 200 soldiers, only 200, 200 guys. Okay. I
Right.
mean, if you watched, never mind. I'm not even going to go there. 200 soldiers that helped save the Mexican army in 1847. An Irishman named Francis O'Connor was mortally wounded. And as he lay dying, he asked a Mexican priest to anoint him with sacred water from his village so that his heart may rest in Ireland. It was blessed by St. Patrick himself in the 4th century. Okay, we hand source the same sacred water from that ancient well and take it 5,202 miles to Los Altos. We source ripe, mature blue agave from only one place in all of Mexico in honor of a promise made to a Mexican child. He was a boy named Francisco Marquez. He was 13 years old when he was killed defending his all heroic Irish battalion, but he never surrendered the flag of his nation being Mexico, I believe, right?
Mexico.
Okay.
Right.
We make the first and only tequila in the world that unites Ireland and Mexico. We are the spirit that unites. I got chills just reading this.
It's a great story. And listen, we're a people known for our storytelling capability and romanticizing certain things. The Irish poets are some of the best in the world. We tell a damn good story. And believe me, the St. Patrick's thing, it's old enough that how are we ever gonna know
Fourth century. You
exactly
got to be
what
400.
happened
What is it?
when
You got to
that,
be,
you
you
know,
know, and
some
that's
people are gonna say the Irish are great bullshitters, and we are. But I would say that probably if the well exists where it's supposed to, somebody ancient and saintly and Catholic probably came across it. And it probably does hold all of the mystical powers of St. Patrick and Ireland that come with it. So I will tell you from the Irish standpoint, most of that's probably true.
So anyway, I you won't let me use the paddle, so we're gonna just
We're
pronounce
we're
it
trying something new, but yes, we're gonna say that I
brand of
think
promise.
absolutely
Brand of
brand of
promise
promise
nominee.
nominee.
I would say now you tell me because I need a referee. But by the way, Jim is not only one of our senior tasters, he is also our now managing partner of Tequila Aficionado. So he's kind of the boss, but he's not the boss of me. We're just, we're all bosses.
Don't say that too loud in my house,
Yeah, I know,
please.
right? Right? Because I know the missus thinks she's the boss, and you know what? She's the boss. But I need a referee. I need a ruling from the referee because he's using water outside of Mexico, which he told me himself was 20 liters, about 20 liters. And I would say he's doing this monthly for every batch or whatever. I'll get the specifics when we talk to him. Would you consider this now an added ingredient that would separate it from all other Blanco tequilas in the category? Do I give it its own separate category, or as the me as a tasting director, or do we lump it in with all the other blancos that could be from Los Altos It could be from, other areas that may or may not have the character that this one does.
Put it up against everything else. Put it out there. Put it up against the Blancos, because why separate this into its own category? I think the water impacts this. It absolutely does. But I don't think the water is the only thing that makes this tequila phenomenal. I think there's the agave is definitely a key part of what makes this very, 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 very good. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
we
Because like I said, it was,
we fought for the Mexicans. We'll fight against the Mexicans. We'll go up against every other Blanco you got in its own
hey,
category. Come
you know
on.
what? I'm all for it. But that's our take, folks. That's a Blanco review of Irlandes. If you folks have had it now, if you've seen this on, if you're watching us on Instagram or Facebook, or you see it on YouTube, where most of our product is, leave us a comment. Let us know what you're doing with it. Do we have a price point at all? I know it's available in the US, but I don't have a price point for the Blanco myself.
I've seen several, and it kind of varies based on where you get it. And I haven't been able to find a price point that doesn't factor in delivery or some shipping, but I believe it's in the mid 50s.
Okay. And you know what? That's the going rate for now for a really decent Blanco these days, even though the price of
And
a
soon
agave
to
has
go
gone
up.
down. Well, yeah, because tariffs, tariffs. Anyway, we don't want to get too political. Anyway, that's our take. If you're having it, what are you doing with it? I know it's going to shine in a cocktail. Would I put this in a cocktail? Not really, but you could. And because of the character that it has, I think it would shine in your Paloma, your margarita. It's very citrusy forward at the beginning. But I gotta tell you, sip it first and
Oh,
and revel in the legend and the story, because even his label, my God, geez, I know I keep trying to sign off and I'm going. The label says Battle of Churubusco, 1847, Death and Glory. Now, it's my understanding that, and he'll be able to tell you better. Colin will be able to tell you better. I believe he has a segment, a portion of the original Mexican flag.
maybe he does. I mean, that would be something to be able to acquire something like that. But this is a very distinct moment in time, and it's a very short moment in time where this group existed. So what is left of them is probably sparse. So that'll be something to check out the open bar.
Yeah,
Definitely check out the open bar, and let's find out more about this story. Not just the story of this tequila, the story of what inspired him to make it, which
I
is a
would love
phenomenal
to.
story.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal story, and to have him tell it, it's better than us ruminating about it. So anyway, that's our take. I'm Mike Morales here in Southern California. That gentleman out there is.
Jim Johnston in Youngstown, Ohio.
You have been watching and listening to another edition of Sipping Off the Cuff, the St. Patrick's edition of Sipping Off the
Absolutely.
Cuff.
Finally, finally.
Yeah. Um, you know, so you subscribe, hit the notification bell, give us a like, share it with all your other Irish friends and all your other Mexican friends that had relatives that fought in the Mexican, Revolution. And whatever you folks do, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely and sláinte.